Good evening, fellow members. At the outset, thanks to Tripur branch for giving me an opportunity to present before the members of Tripur branch. And now it's a hot season. We have to be ready with our knowledge base and all our checklists for starting the bank audit work by first week of April. More or less, works started flowing in from some banks, and it will come up in due course. I'm sure you had already gone through all the detailed bank audit norms pertaining to various areas. You might have learned little bit about FEMA matters. Today, this is a specialized session. Maybe for next 1 hour, I'll get into specific aspects what you will be required to look into for the purpose of FEMA compliance and reporting in the LFAR. LFAR is the only place where this particular reporting requirements are asked for in the FEMA aspect. So that area I will focus more. The key questions what they ask and what is the areas what we have to check and we have to give our replies. Mostly this will be applicable for very few branches, not for all the branches, because the LFAR checklist itself will say wherever the forex transactions are handled, then only this will be applicable. It will not be, otherwise it will not be not applicable. And in majority of the cases in Tirupur, many of the branches are handling forex transactions. Otherwise, in many of the smaller towns and all, none of the branches are handling the forex transaction. The branches just scan and send the details to their Chennai office or Bombay office, where actually the transaction is dealt there. So to that extent, our role in the branch is very, very limited. Very particularly limited to account opening formalities where NRE, NRO accounts, or any NRO, NRI related loans, if at all anything given. Otherwise, the scope for FEMA aspect is very limited in smaller branches where the forex transactions are not dealt. Anyway, today we will see what are all the requirements. This way, we will be able to advise our clients how when they approach for FEMA related compliances, whether it's a routine export-import transaction or FDI, ODI or ECB related transaction, where how to advise them. We will get that also in detail during the course of the presentation. So, my presentation, when we get into, I have divided this into 4 parts. One, basically the regulatory framework, then the LFAR requirement, the individual transactions, resident and non-resident transactions, small portion what you will check in during the audit. Key things we will advise our clients whenever they come up for requirements related to transfers in that area. Then 2 slides regarding general FDI, ODI, what are all the compliance requirements are there. If any queries are there, I can address on each of these aspects. But because this bank audit related, so I limited those areas into a few slides. More on LFAR I have did it. So getting into the FEMA, just a minute, full screen பண்ணிக்கிறேங்க. ஒரே சைஸ் full screen கேட்கல. உங்களுக்கு இப்படி தான் ஆமாம். Full screen. So coming to FEMA, this was replaced FERA from the earlier regulated controlled regime. Now it's more a liberalized regime. Today it's a civil. Anything non-compliance is civil, whereas FERA was a criminal thing where first it will be arrested. Today everything is civil. Any contravention, everything is penalty payments, except any money laundering matters. If at all, if it is probed under PMLA, arrest comes. Otherwise, FEMA as such doesn't have any provision of criminalizing this and arrest. Unless you have been given penalty, you have not paid, appeal also you have not paid, then they can arrest it. Otherwise, it's a civil law. Any offense held, it can be compounded. Even the money laundering offenses are compoundable, but by enforcement directorate, not by RBI. RBI will compound all the matters. If you go and say what is the exact contravention, you regularize everything, pay the penalty, you are out of it. Money laundering matter alone, ED is the only authority to compound that matter. They will look into the aspects under PMLA and Black Money Acts, and then they will permit for whatever compounding related things. Under FEMA, there are rules where current account rules are framed, where your routine export-import transactions are current account transaction. It will be governed by rules framed under the Act. And other capital account transactions are all regulation driven. There is no rules as such. Now, RBI, means RBI periodically releases regulations for that. There is a FDA related regulation, ECB, ODI. For each of the areas, they have given the regulation, even for deposit accounts, NRE, NRO accounts, all those things. There are detailed regulations. Historically, since 1999, RBI is empowered to do the regulation, but post this government 2015, they amended that all the regulation other than the debt instrument, central government will do the regulation under the suggestions of RBI. That regulations are enforced only from 2019. So now central government makes the regulations, but with in concurrence with RBI. Otherwise, all the regulations are done by RBI. As such, after central government powers have come, nothing major has happened. Okay, maybe COVID issues have come, and RBI government also has not made any larger modification in this aspect because things are moving smoothly. So regulations, they currently central government is empowered to do the regular prepare means publish the regulations in consultation with RBI. Based on these regulations and the rules, generally we all know that the RBI comes out with master circular. Every year they used to come out with master circular. But as far as this FEMA is concerned, RBI has made a procedure of issuing a master direction. Master direction is no time bound. Earlier, master circular means 1st July of every year they used to release one new version of the master circular. Now it is master direction is released. Every time they will make update. Any amendment comes, they will make an update. So there is one version of master direction. Master direction number 1 means that will undergo changes as and when there is a thing. No static version of it. So anytime you wanted the latest version, you can always go to the RBI site and you can see the top. Master direction is nothing, it's a pure layman language for the entire act and the regulations. Entire act and regulation, we will see it as notwithstanding, provisos, so many things. Here, everything is brought under one place, all the master circulars, guidance notes given to bank, everything they have brought it in a simple language for easy and better understanding of the users. So any doubts on FDI, ODI or any export import related transactions, our members can easily advise. Just you have to read the master circular once. Any client, if they are seeking any advice, you just take some half an hour's time in advance, inquire about it. Just go through the master circular. You can advise them very clearly. You can, there's confidently you can advise them. Well, master circular, more or less, they had brought out all the details in a very, heading driven, each class wise. You wanted to deal about merchant transaction, you wanted to deal about write off. All those things are very clearly explained in the master's direction. Export, import, currency related matters or FDI, whatever it is, it's all there in the master direction. If you want to read the entire master direction, maybe it may take 2 to 3 days, full days time. You can read the entire master direction and you can be an expert in FEMA. You are able to recollect those things for immediate advising, you are an expert in FEMA. So that's how today it is very simplified. And all these data, you don't want to subscribe any things, you don't want to buy any large books. Generally, FEMA means always bigger books. And minimum it is 2,000 rupees, nothing less. You just access to RBI website and where it is always up to date. That is more relevant enough for us to advise clients on a very, as per their requirement, we will be able to address that. So that is one thing. I will show you in the subsequent screens where exactly the data are there in the RBI portal. As far as this FEMA is concerned, there is only major 2 classification, current account and capital account. Means the thumb rule is all current account transactions are generally permitted unless there is a specific restriction. Capital account transaction is inverse. Generally, it is restricted unless there is a specific permission about it. So current account transactions are free to do that, where all your export import transactions all covered under the current account transaction, where it's generally documentation compliance only is checked. There is no approval that 10 lakh and above you have to go and take approval. There's no such things. It's all free limits. Whereas capital account transaction, there are procedures and there are limits. If up to this limit under automatic route, beyond this, you have to go for approval. The procedures are defined under the respective regulations. So I don't want to get into the definition of capital account and all. It's a simple categorical definition: P&L item, current, and balance sheet item, capital. Contingent liabilities also are covered if there is a foreign liability outside into that things. Okay, this is for FDI, ODI, and ECB related. There are regulations and the master circular are there, which I will give you the location where those data can be accessed in the thing. Current account transaction, your routine export import things. When it comes to individuals, because now we are going to bank audits, there apart from business transactions where there are non-resident accounts are there, and many foreign individual related transactions will come either for education abroad or for means property purchase or for insurance matters. Many things, medical services or repatriation of their proceeds from India or foreign, their kids or somebody may be working, they will be investing in India, fund inflow will be there. This is more common in our region. So that transaction, we should have a clear idea of what is the minimum requirement, whether they are complied with or not. Because we will not be able to do 100% vouching of each of their things. But basic things, we should have a clear idea of it. Those things I'm just trying to cover it up. One, individual related, what you will come across is generally property related transaction, wherein NR, non-residents would have invested in India, or they would have repatriated the money from Indian things. And there can be loans from the non-resident accounts, loans would have gone and they can taken back the loans. And liberalized remittance scheme is a scheme under which an individual resident in India is freely allowed to remit up to $2.5 lakh. Anybody, even if we are never traveled abroad, we are allowed to remit $2.5 lakh per financial year and buy shares abroad or buy invest in property abroad. So that is liberalized. So many parties are investing in under that route in foreign countries. So that is under the LRS, where there are a lot of declarations and bank responsibility to check it. So that area we will be vouching it when we are carrying out the bank audit. Then deposit accounts, which are routine NRE, NRO, FCNR accounts are there. Remittance of assets is nothing but repatriation of money from India. When they sell off the shares and they take back money, or ancestral property, they sell off whatever they take in. There's a scheme of 1 million scheme wherein the non-residents can repatriate the money from the account. And routine money changing activities and money transfer service. This is very specific, where full-fledged money changers are restricted money changers. Like we will have forex. When you are going on foreign travel, you can exchange the money for dollar for taking it. So there are such kind of accounts, foreign full-fledged money changers. If their accounts are there and if there is a foreign exchange transactions, that you have to look into those aspects. So these things, I've just given you the screenshot of the RBI portal, wherein you will be able to access all these master directions in that thing. It's rbi.org.in is the portal. In that right side tabs, there is a thing called foreign exchange management. If you click on the foreign exchange management, it opens as objective notifications and those items. In that, the notification is the option wherein you can click and get into it. Notification, if you go to further, you will have in the second page, in the left side, you will have master direction, master circular, and draft regulations, whatever it comes. Master circulars are older things. Now there is no concept of master circular coming in the last 2-3 years. It's master direction in the thing. Once you click on the master direction, all those master directions present as on, which is enforceable as on date, will be visible there. Okay, so actually it's smaller in size. Once when you are accessing the screen, you will be able to see it full. Let me see, try to increase the size here. Screen. Full page தான் பார்க்கிறேன். Read mode. Okay. Read mode. அது இன்னும் full page இருக்குமே. Right, okay. Right. So there you have all the master directions. It released since 2016 to 19. Actually, it may say released on 19, but once you open, you will have updated up to. every time whenever they are issuing any circular to the banks, APDAR circulars or any other amendments in the regulation, immediately they will update. Once you click and go in, you will be able to see what is the latest update they are given. For each of the updates, they would have given in the foot the reference of each of the circulars. So once you get in for each of the areas like export of services, import of services, ECB, individual remittances under LRS, remittance of assets, NRE account, NRO account related, everything there are master directions. This master directions is the Bible document for us for comfortably advising to advise our clients. If you have a clear idea of this thing, then bank audit is you can just walk through and you can come. There's nothing beyond this. All these aspects are clearly covered under master direction. Some of the master direction runs for 5 to 6 pages. Very few runs for 10, 20 pages. It goes up. So at least some 400 pages may come. So this is a place where you can easily keep it reference. Even in mobile also, you can always scroll through. This is searchable both in PDF and in a HTML version is there. You can easily do that off. So this one you always, whenever you find time, go through one or the other circular. If you have clients in that portfolio, if there is a foreign direct investment or Indians investing abroad, whenever you get an opportunity, go through it. You will be able to easily guide that, and you will be able to acquire a stronger knowledge in that subject. Getting into today's specific thing, as far as bank audit is concerned, our major focus is always revolving around two items. One, answering the long form audit report. Second is the NPA related classifications. Because NPA related is the rules are small, limited. There's 90 days and all those criteria. Long form audit report is the area where they will ask everything. Other than that general Gilani committee report and all those things, long form audit area, which will cover all aspects of the bank branch. That is why they named it itself as a long form audit report. So they don't want any short form there. But comfortably, if it is a non-forex transaction batch, we can answer short form, not applicable. But if it's a foreign transaction bench, again, then you have to have a long work to carry out in that area. That is the thing which when we get into this LFAR portion, okay, generally it runs into some 50, 100 points in that. 4 points are specific for foreign exchange business handling branches. So there's only 4 questions in that, in the general LFAR. First question relates to account, type of accounts, whatever the accounts are open, whether it all complies with KYC norms and that anti-money laundering norms, account opening procedures are followed or not. All those things they have to check it off. That is one priority. Even there also today in the CBS environment where everything is centralized at one place, even all account opening norms are centralized. But because the original documents are verified only by the branch head, whether it is a passport or any document, original doesn't go to the respective centers. It's all only scanned copies goes there. To some extent, they retain in the branch. We may not be able to see the documents in detail, but you have to check whether in the concurrent audit, all these aspects are addressed in a proper manner. Because the concurrent auditor is one who's supposed to monitor that things routine for all the things. You can have a sample checks to the extent details available, details sent to their central processing center for account opening. So that's one thing. Second question is more related to the real foreign exchange transactions or trade transactions of export, import, loans, PCFC, EPC, whatever, all those things, and deposit account related, whether they have a FDs or any kind of term deposits in FCNR, any category of accounts, NRE, NRO, all those things. That is the question. It will be there in the second part of it. Third part comes about Nostro account. Nostro is nothing but means our money with you. Nostro is the word wherein Indian banks in India having an account abroad, wherein the dollar credits will come. See, technically, for example, Tirupur being an export-oriented entity, parties will be remitting the money. It's not that the physical money comes from USA to India. Let's take SBI is the Indian bank where receiving money from US. US, say from their Bank of America, will not send the money physically to India. SBI will have an account in US in the banks. That account is called Nostro account. So there, which bank is having in which account, it all controlled under SWIFT link properly. Everybody, it's known to the banking channel. So they will be only transferring the money from Bank of America account to the SBI account in that country, wherever SBI had that account. So Indian banks, if they have the account abroad in foreign currency, that's called Nostro account. If the foreign banks have an account in India, in Indian rupees, it's called Vostro. What is Nostro for us is Vostro for them. Just say opposite. Indian banks having in foreign currency is Nostro for us. For them, it's a Vostro account. It's a rupee account. They have it. So that Nostro account things here, because it's one of the account, we have to check whether it is periodically reconciled, whether all the credit transaction, debit transactions are properly translated into the CBA system and things are moved up. No suspense amount lies in the Nostro account for a longer period. Obviously, sometimes money, in general scenario, same day credit happen. There are cases where 1 week, 10 days it happens. But when we go on the cut-off 31st day, we have to see reconciliation of those things and what are the items lying in there, those things. So that's one Nostro account thing. And for Nostro account, generally there are detailed procedures are defined in the internally bank will have the or whether all those procedures are strictly followed. Because that Nostro related frauds are in a big way it has happened. So they're very particular on that matter. They are asking us to vouch into that. So these are the 4 questions which we will be answering in relation to FEMA matters during the branch statutory audit. And this is there only if the branch is handling the foreign exchange transaction. If there is no foreign exchange transaction, you're more into the case of village branches when you do. There is lesser chance of having this transaction. But being in Tirupur, if you are getting an opportunity in any branch in Tirupur, certainly there will be a foreign exchange related transaction. It might have been dealt at their corporate office or where, but it all would have transacted through the branch. So the people will be having a fair idea of it. So we also have to look into each of those things. So getting into the accounting type for the first question, what are the types of accounts? What is our areas of check? Generally, 2 categories. One, business related, non-business related. Non-business related are your individual accounts where it's either NRE or NRO mainly. Non-resident external account, which is freely repatriable, freely convertible. You can swipe an ATM card abroad and you can easily take it off. No questions asked. It's a free account. NRO is non-repatriable, not freely repatriable from that account. NRO, then any remittances, it has to follow through the repatriation norms. NRO account is not freely convertible, transferable. That is one account. Both these categories, normal savings bank account or current account, FD account, anything, any kind of account. A normal, if I am having an SB account, if I go abroad and if I become a non-resident, I can ask the bank to change it as a non-resident. So general, my SB account will be converted as NRO. Because the NRE account, debits and credits are regulated. More credits, there should be procedure. Money coming from abroad only will be credited. That means foreign currency. You cannot go and convert rupee into dollar and credit your NRE accounts. It has to be a remittance coming from abroad or any other foreign currency sources, whatever you have. So NRE account, you will be opening separately when you are becoming a non-resident. The NRO account is your normal SB account or current account. When you are becoming a non-resident, you can request to categorize it as a non-resident. Same way, vice versa, when you are coming back, the day you become resident in India, you have to intimate them and make it as a resident account. At that time, NRE account balance, you have option of either treating it as a normal SB account or normal way, or you can convert, means transfer the funds to resident foreign currency account. Because it's all freely repatriable money you had, you can have it in the foreign currency, resident foreign currency account, you can open and have it for future repatriation. The moment if you convert into a normal account, then you can't repatriate. So that option you have when you are having the residential change things. FCNR is foreign currency non-resident account. It's more a fixed deposit accounts, bank scheme. They generally up to 3 years they used to do it. One purpose of FCNR is NRO or NRE. The day you become a resident, it is a resident account. Then you won't get the income tax benefits and all those things. But if it's an FCNR deposit, Even if today you put the deposit, tomorrow you are permanently coming to India for employment or any purpose and you are becoming a resident, until maturity you can continue to have it in FCNR accounts, wherein you can get the income tax related benefits and all those things. So that's FCNR, you have a deposit, and the slightly interest rate changes will be there, lock-in and all those related things. Resident foreign currency account is an Indians, when we are residing here, we are allowed to open account in foreign currency, dollar account, means euro, anything. The only thing is we cannot deposit the rupee money into that account. It has to be a proceeds realized from abroad. Any of our older savings or employment proceeds, anything, you can have it in that resident foreign currency account. Because any money you have in resident foreign currency account, it is freely you can remit. There is no restriction. For this purpose you cannot use, for this is the investment. RFC account is free. You can send it abroad for any of this thing. Then EEFC account is your export exchange and foreign currency account. More money credits of any of your export bill proceeds credit here. The only restriction here is you can't hold the money for a longer period. If the money is credited in March, you have the time up to April 30. Either you can use it for any other import bills payment or anything, or at the end of April 30, you have to convert it into INR. You can convert it any day. People use it if they are having a forward contract, they wanted to convert it on a particular day, they will use it. Or if they have some import bills payments, then they will use it off. For those purposes, EEFC account, they will be having an advantage to avoid conversion charges and all those things. All these accounts, account opening, whether know your customer requirements are fulfilled or not, anti-money laundering related compliances are taken care or not. These areas, during the course of audit, we are supposed to check it. If it is a voluminous thing, then obviously we will have to carry out test checks on that matter, and internal audit or concurrent audit, what kind of checks and balances they had, what kind of observations they have made in that thing, and whether those observations are closed in time or not. We have to have a clear, means we have to arrive at an opinion on that matter, and that's what we have to reflect in LFAR. So in our samples, if we are coming out with say, if we might have reviewed some 25 accounts, 2 accounts, there can be a discrepancy of particular routine matter aspects, that those things we have to give it an observation in the long form audit report. Whether we will be able to watch, if there is hundreds of accounts, vouching all the account will practically will be very difficult. But the key deviations, whatever we come across on the samples, we are supposed to report in the LFAR, that part. So in that area, there is a concurrent audit report, and its compliance will be of a great help for us to have a broad idea of how throughout the year the things are happened, apart from your sample tests on that matter. And when the RBI audit happens, larger forex dealing branches, RBI audit happens at frequent intervals, maybe once in the span of 3 years, there will be a process of it. That there again, their observations will be there, which will be helpful for us to identify and focus on which area there was a lacuna in the process. That's one thing. So getting into the second question, where we have to vouch the transaction related to deposit, advances, export bills, bills for collection, dealing from operations where the trading cell, they will have it of where you will be means hedging contracts, power contracts, deal rates and all are done. That generally we don't have a branch in our regions. It's more that particular thing will be in Bombay only, because all the trading related things are dealt at that office. Other areas of system related, CBS, Swift linkage, the Punjab National Bank, those frauds happen because of the gap between the CBS and the Swift systems. Those areas are there. So in that case, when you get into deposit, we have already seen FCNR account, NRE, NRO accounts. There are regulations. What amounts are allowed to be credited? In FCNR or NRE accounts, money remitted from abroad only are allowed to be credited. If it is money remitted within India, then any outward remittance permitted. So for example, a property has been sold and money is lying in the NRO account, and non-resident is allowed to repatriate $1 million per financial year. So from NRO account, he can transfer it to NRE account. From NRE, he can easily deal with that. So that he can do that. So there are criteria. What are all the amounts repatriable? So those amounts, when they repatriate, whether their basic document check, like for example, if it's ancestral property, money repatriated, obviously there will be a family inheritance certificate and the sale deed copies would have been given. More importantly, Form 15 CACB, whether that requirements have been done. And the new requirement of TCS has come in. 5%, 10%, or if it's education related, 0.5%. Those aspects is a new aspect from 1st October. That also we have to check it. That is again from LFAR, that gets linked to your tax audit report for the branch, what you are going to see that. More or less now today, even the TCS also, they have centralized it from one place. But since we are looking into those transactions, it will be appropriate for us to have the test check of the TCS compliance also, because it's a new thing which got introduced in this year. So our inputs from the branch will only facilitate for the central statutory auditor to arrive at a general opinion on that process, particular thing. Here the TDS rate is high, and there will be a lot of computational difficulties are there in the first year, because there is a criteria of 7 lakh. That 7 lakh has to be computed from 1st April, but TCS will be applicable from the transaction happen only after 1st October. So things are there, wherein you have to slightly look into it in detail, because that's how you will be able to give a clear picture when you are doing the tax audit report on that. So FCNR, NRENR accounts, there is a regulation specific under the foreign exchange management deposit regulation. For these accounts, there is a specific master direction is there in that place, in the location wherever I had already shown you. So you can go through in detail. Apart from that, branch also has the internal circulars for each of these guidelines. Always ask for the updated version of it. Sometimes they might be sitting with some older circulars. So many of the banks have centralized the data in their internal intranet portals. So those guidelines and circulars will be available in their intranet portals. You can have, wherever you have a doubt, you can ask them to show it in their internal circular. Parallelly, you can have a test check on the guidelines what we have. So guidelines are bare minimum requirement. They don't have any right to breach the guideline, means master direction related matters. Beyond that, they can have extra conditions. Guideline has to check one extra point that they cannot deviate, that they cannot relax. They can make additional requirements, which we would have come across. They will ask for auditor certificate. Law will not necessitate, but their internal procedure, they would have made it a thing that get a CA certificate for this particular compliance. That kind of additional compliances will be there. So that internal guideline, we can always see that and look into that. So that's on deposit side. When it comes to advances, I'll just showing it to you. Okay, this is more relevant for us in Tirupur also, where majority of the clients avail this particular advances under the foreign exchange category. Yes. Many of the banks, they have already integrated that. This will be checked that generally at the corporate office level in the systems thing. We also can have a cross check of the transaction to that extent what we look into the bank branches. In integration check doing at branch I don't think it will be feasible. It will be at the head office level only. It will be done. If we are not able to check it, it's better we can make a small remark that this particular system check we are not able to do it here because we don't get access to many of those things. But if there is a Nostro account, SWIFT related transaction happens, better to ask for once they will do that. Coming into this advances, one for export, there is a concessional interest rate driven advances are there, where government also gives concessional things. It's either it should be a pre-shipment export finance or it's a post-shipment export finance. So pre-shipment export finance and both post-shipment are given in current different currency. One, either you can take it in INR, which will be called as export packing credit. If it is a foreign currency, it's PCFC, packing credit in foreign currency. So these two are general common terminologies where for an INR PC, government gives interest subvention thing. For foreign currency packing credit, obviously it's all LIBOR driven rates. You'll get it at the subsidized rate, maybe LIBOR plus 100 basis point, 200, 300 basis points, it comes up in that category. So this is earlier it is all 180 days post over a period. Now that this made us 360 days, you can give a maximum credit. Beyond that, you cannot extend the PCFC matters. And it has to be compulsorily repayment from either the export proceeds have to come or you have to pay it from your EFC proceeds. If you are making the payment from INR, any other than export proceeds, then they will say no concessional interest, you have to pay the entire interest. They will ask for the back period also, the full interest of it. So it's always mandatory to ensure that it comes from the export proceeds. In case if there is a rupee related settlement, then it is mandatory on us to check whether the corrected interest rate has been applied or not. If it is not applied, then there should be a proper justification. If they have, because there are cases where the party, because of some contractual terms, they would have obtained RBI extension time. Beyond means beyond this 12 month also, they would have contract would have got extended. RBI approvals they would have gone for it. Those cases they will not charge that higher interest rate, so that we have to check it out. So actually, the below auditing aspects I have listed down. Actually, these are all from the bank branch audit, our institute given guideline. What exact documentational aspect we have to check? The institute has given a clear in the bank branch audit, that guideline book. Actually, if you happen to get a foreign transacting branch audit in the transaction, it's some 30-40 pages guidelines are given in the branch audit manual. It will be good if people go through the 30-40 pages. It takes hardly 2 to 3 hours maximum. You will be able to have a clear understanding of how to carry out those things. Even before you sit before the auditee, you will be means conversant with all the terminologies, what they use in that, what questions to ask for, and why this question is asked, and where this impact will come in the LFAR. It's hardly 30-40 pages is that. So that just go through it once. If you happen to audit a foreign exchange transacting business branch, being in Tirupur and you have a requirement to get into it, if you get a branch here or Erode or places where more export transaction happens, so the procedure it asks for what kind of, get the list of packing credits, whatever it is open and all those things, any underlying documents are there, how it is liquidated, all those things you have to get it checked. So that those things are clearly defined even in the manual. You can easily refer that out. And post shipment credit, again it's again 360 days. The pre-shipment credit, once it is exported, you can give a request letter and convert it into post shipment. Pre-shipment, you can convert it post-shipment. Technically, it is nothing but closure of pre-shipment and they make it. But now today the conversion they will permit out. Again, it's literally it's a different form of export bill discounting or purchasing of the export bill. It's all different forms. One form is your pre-ship means post-shipment packing credit. Again, this will also be retained in your rupee account or rupee current borrowing or in a foreign currency borrowing. So both are that same way. Here, when you test check, there should be an export bill, means customs document should be there. How the document has been negotiated, whether it is sent through bank or they have, they may be one star, 2 star, 3 star export house, and they would be directly sending those bills. Those documentations we should verify that off. When this being an advance granted, so it's a documentation we have to ensure that is taken care of. And we have to see that 360 days means nothing is beyond that 360 days. If anything is going, that should be the reason. Those things we have to check it out. Then comes trade credit. See, what we had seen in the pre and post shipment is all for export financing. Trade credit is where under import leg you will be getting credit. So there are generally two types of credits where it is either buyer's credit or supplier's credit. Supplier's credit is nothing but the supplier, equipment supplier or product supplier, he will give a credit. So there is no other financing. It's the supplier gives credit. It may range from 30 days to 300 days or 3000 days. Sometimes in equipment manufacturer, they give 10 years credit also. So that is a supplier's credit. Buyer's credit is nothing but we will be arranging some financing for any imports. Maybe we may take from loan from foreign branches or foreign banks, or our foreign investor or parent company will give financing to buy an equipment or raw material, whatever it is. So somebody else is financing for the imports. other than the supplier. So that will be termed as a buyer's credit. We being buyer, we are getting a credit arranged from external sources to do that off. Either financial institutions or from foreign equity holders. You can, foreign equity holder and financial institution comfortable to get approval. If you are having with other than these parties, then you have to have their credibility established with the bank to do that off. So in that case, what kind of documents to be checked? Whether the loan agreements, whether it is falling within the benchmark rates, means there is a criteria. The trade credit means if it's a raw material, maximum 1 year is the credit period allowed. If it is a capital equipment, 3 years credit period is allowed. That's if beyond 3 years, it will be termed as an ECB. Then you have to follow the ECB regulation. Trade credit approval doesn't go to RBI. Your AD bank is the approving authority. So they will be doing it off. So there, whether bank has taken appropriate care while giving this credit approval, they have vouched the genuineness of the transaction, that we have to just check it off. And the interest rate restriction, that maximum is LIBOR, 6 months LIBOR plus 250 basis points is the maximum interest rate what is permitted under the automatic route. Beyond that, they have to go for any RBI approval things. And up to $50 million is per bill. Per import bill on party, you can give a credit of 50 million. Beyond that, you have to go for RBI approval for import transactions. So those things in terms of trade credit, wherever the import bills are there, you will have to check. This will be certainly there in majority of the companies here, wherever they have imported capital equipments. Well, Tripur related zones, we don't come across any major raw material import, because majority is sourced here. But machinery is being imported, trade credits are prevalent there. Because even in textile industry, we come across 5 year, 7 year credit for textile machineries. Because all those suppliers have their own financing company internally. They take insurance and they are giving longer credits in that area. There we have to check it off. If it is capital equipment, 3 year, up to 3 year, it's a trade credit. Beyond 3 year, we have to see that it is following with ECB guidelines. ECB regulation, they have to get a LRN number first, and they will do it off. Here in trade credit, you can do the transaction and then you can go and submit all those things. Whereas ECB, you have to first apply and get the LRN number, and then only you are allowed to get the whatever import or payments related, all those things you are allowed to do. That's on the trade credit matters. So what kind of odd documents you have to see? Audit aspect, underlying transaction, import bill of entry, whether there is a bank guarantee would have been given for that particular trade credit, or letter of LOC, letter of credit might have been issued. All those supporting documents, you will be vouching it off for each of those transactions, and including the bank charges, if at all any levied, insurance related, all in cost, whether they have ensured that it is complied with. All those things we have to just check it off. On the trade credit transaction. Coming into the export bills, what we are seeing all is the second question in the LFAR, where deposits, advances, and export bills. So export bills is nothing but we send the bills for collection. Generally, any export done within 21 days, you have to lodge the bill for collection to the bank. So banks will negotiate it with the foreign bank. Either if it's a LC, they will negotiate, or they will, if it's a non-LC transaction, they will send it to the foreign party for collecting those things. So the bills may be outstanding, whether it is outstanding beyond 180 days. Okay, now it is 9-month realization. Earlier it is 6 months they have to realize the money. Now it is 9 months. In case of, say for example, if the parties are having their own warehouse outside, many Bangalore means Coimbatore, Tirupur related parties, they will have a warehouse abroad. Today people deal through online marketing, Amazon, Flipkart. They all warehouse stored in their own name. They store it, and from there only billing happens. So in those cases, you are allowed to repatriate up to 15 months. The export proceeds. Normal case 9 months. If it's your own warehouse you are stored, in that case where you will be exporting in your own name, where the consignee or the receiver billing also to your own name. So in that case, 15 days is permitted, 15 months. So all these export related procedures, timelines, you can get into master direction on export of goods, wherein you will get a clear picture of what is permitted, what are all the documentation, what is the timeline driven, in case of exceptions, what it is, whether if money is not received, how much to be written off, up to 5% self write-off, 5 to 10% AD approval. All those things are categorically defined under the master direction for export of goods that you can go through, which will be more comfortable for you to advise your clients in this region. So here you will be checking in of bills, whether it is lodged in time, sent for collection, if it is whether it is crossed 9 months or not. Generally, banks have already developed a system that if it is crossing the tenure, they are sending a reminders for getting that to the parties, because now last 2-3 years it's all moved to means the defaulter list and all are getting more stringent. This is now being almost system driven in all those banks. You have to just have a test check of it all. Same way, if there is a export bills, if it's purchased or discounted, some of the reputed customer bills, they are discounting in India. It depends if the limits are established, if there are some credit insurances are available. So the bill discounting for export things, they are doing it off those transactions. And in case of advances are received for export bills, if an advance is received, then you are supposed to export it within 1 year. If it is going be under automatic thing, if you are going beyond 1 year, then you should apply and seek approval. So whether any advances already received, pending, bill matching pending is there. That is again a report readily available in the current CBS environment. Almost all banks have it off. So that also has to be seen that. If there are long overdues, whether we will not be able to get into each of those bills, but the report will give a clear picture of whether it is a routine default things with few parties, selected parties or whatever, we will be able to form an opinion, and that opinion we will give it in the LFAR. Then bills for collection, what that we mentioned when we send the bills for collection, there is a report readily available, bill balancing report. Whatever bills come from foreign branch to India for collection for the import bills. So here generally our bank acts as just as a post office. When the bill comes, they will inform the client. They will see that they make the payment and collect the shipping documents. Because when the party sends the material, they will send the transport documents through the bank. So there will be a report available wherein you can take it and check it off, reconcile it. And throughout the year, the concurrent audit parties would have reconciled that off. But at the fag end of the year, things would have come, whether parties have paid and cleared those things. There are chances of frauds are there in more in the form of they will discuss with the bank and get the document cleared, but they may take time to make the payment. At the branch level, they will say they will keep the transaction in pending for 3-4 days, but in reality, the document would have been released. If they collude with the people, so they will get it released, and then they will make the payment slightly delayed. So those things at the fag end, at the 31st March, when you are looking into it, you have to have a clear reconciliation of those transactions, what it is. Moving to the third and fourth question, which is more of Nostro account driven. So it is purely you have to ask for the process what they follow, and you have to check that whether the process is implemented. Generally, there can be a thing that if there is a multiple transaction driven, then everyday reconciliation becomes mandatory, because you can't reconcile at the end of the month also. Every day 100 transaction happens, reconciliation becomes a big thing. So every day they close the accounts, they reconcile, suspend accounts, they list down and keep it up. That Nostro account, wherever the branches are handling those accounts, you have to see the process, what they follow, what kind of internal control checks they had it, how the concurrent audit or RBI audit, whether they had given any specific comment on that matter. And we have to have a clear comfort we have to establish. We are certifying for that particular point, because amounts are certainly larger amounts, and the cases in forex transaction related larger cases all reported more revolving around this Nostro account related matters only. Those things we have to have a clear understanding of that thing. So our bank audit guidelines, what institute has given, has a clear process for what questions to ask, what kind of things you to test check it. So that's clearly it is there. more the account reconciliations, the of account reconciliation and the credit getting transferred to respective accounts properly in time with those things. So whatever credits and debits coming, this actually gets reported to RBI in FETAS reporting. There's a foreign exchange online reporting. Every bank has to report to RBI. Actually, that is the report which finally goes into balance of payment of India. So it's all a chain link driven there. So FETAS Nostro account related information majority will flow into FETAS portion of it. So that's key thing where if we happen to audit a branch where the Nostro accounts are there, then we have to ensure that all these aspects are taken care of. So the fourth question is nothing but prescribed procedures maintenance of Vostro accounts. What kind of procedures, the bank internal procedures they are defined. Foreign banks will be having a rupee account in India, which will be the Vostro account for us. Whether those things are taken care, we have to test check it out. So these are the LFAR points. 4 key points which you will answer in branch level audit. Apart from that, if you happen to look into the treasury branch and all those things, there will be a detailed further things where forward contracts, rates, how they take it with the FEDI, how they clock it, and there will be limits. Each person, there will be individual limits. Because see, for every transaction, they will not exactly do the counter hedge. So one person taking $10,000 hedge, exact counter hedge may not be there. At branch level or bank level, they used to pull it off. From various branches, they will pull and they will make a opposite hedge of it. So that they will not keep it open for weeks together. On the same day or few hours, the trading person will have the limits up to which he can go. He can wait and take it, all those things. So those things, when you are happen to audit that particular trading cell area, then you have to see that off. I have not covered up those things into the thing. Even I also have a limited exposure on that. I never had only theoretical knowledge. I have it on that part of it. Getting into the next portion, individual transactions. What today we have now so far seen is more related to trade related transactions. Individual transactions, there are 2 forms of remittances from India. It is one, resident Indians, they will remit abroad. So there is only one scheme permitted, LRS, whether they remit it for children's education or buying shares, buying property, or for just having a deposit in foreign bank. So there's only one LRS scheme. The current limit is $2.5 lakh per financial year for an individual. In a family of 3, it can be clubbed and sent. So $7.5 lakh you can send. Even a child also is eligible for that limit. They can buy a property outside, subject to some declarations and all those things. So 15 CSEB is the correct. 15 CSEB is a income tax act driven, wherein you have to check 37 BB regulation, rule 37 BB of IT. What is exempted from 15 CSEB? There is a list. But majority of the banks ask for that also. Because the reason when we spoke with the branches, branch manager அதான் சொன்னார், சார் நீங்கெல்லாம் ஐடி இன்கம் டாக்ஸ்லாம் உங்களுக்கு தெரியும் சார், எனக்கு தெரியாது சார், கன்கரண்ட் ஆடிட் வர்றவங்க கேட்குறாங்க, எங்கெல்லாம் கொடுத்துருங்க சார், எங்களுக்கு பிரச்சனை இல்லை. பிகாஸ் அந்த டெக்னிக்கல் இது நாம இந்த கேட்டகரியில இது எக்ஸம்ட் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு இருந்தோம்னா அவங்க they don't have interpreting things. இது சார் கொடுத்துருங்க சார், இல்லைன்னா எங்களுக்கு கன்கரண்ட் ஆடிட்ல பிரச்சனைன்னு. NRO to NRE is compulsory because NRO to NRE is a outward remittance. ஏன்னா NRO you can't transfer, you can't freely repatriate. NRE இருந்தா நீங்க எந்த நாட்டில் வேணா அந்த ஏடிஎம் டெபிட் கார்டு இருந்தா ஸ்வைப் பண்ணி டாலர்ஸ் எடுத்துட்டு போயிட்டே இருக்கலாம். கேள்வியும் கேட்க முடியாது அதுல இருந்து அந்த ஃபண்டை நீங்க எதுக்கு யூஸ் பண்ணீங்கன்ட்டு. NRO to NRE is it's a clear repatriation. Every checks will be followed. 15 CSEB எதுவா இருந்தாலும் they will be asking it off. ஈவன் NRO டு உங்களோட ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் இப்போ இங்கே கோயம்புத்தூர்ல இங்கே எஸ்பிஐல வந்து நம்ம அக்கௌண்ட் இருக்குன்னு வச்சுக்கோங்க, ஒரு நான் ரெசிடென்ட் NROல ஒரு ரூபா வச்சிருக்காரு, அதே பிரான்ச்ல NRE அக்கௌண்ட் வச்சிருக்காரு, இங்கிருந்து அங்கே மாத்தினா 5% TDS பிடிச்சிடும், டிசிஎஸ் கலெக்ட் பண்ணிடுவோம். NROல இருந்து NRE டிரான்ஸ்ஃபர் பண்ணீங்கன்னா 5% பிடிச்சிடும், மேண்டேட்டரி. நவ் ஸோ தட் இஸ் திங், ரிப்பாட்ரியேஷன் ஆச்சுனாலே முடிஞ்சது. Okay, coming to LRS, $2.5 lakh limit,
compulsorily you should have a PAN. Then only you are allowed to do the LRS transfer. And $2.5 lakh, generally you can do multiple transactions, but generally RBI monitors through your PAN. நீங்க எங்காவது ஒரு பேங்க்ல இங்க கொடுத்துட்டு அடுத்து இன்னொரு வேற ஏதோ ஒரு பேங்க்ல போய் ஃப்ராட்லண்ட் அட்டம்ப்டா இங்க $2 லட்சம் அனுப்பிச்சாச்சு, இன்னொரு பேங்க் சம்மந்தம் இல்லாத பிரான்ச் வேற எங்கேயாவது போய் அனுப்பிச்சோன்னா RBI will come to know about through branch that PAN number tracking. So PAN driven amount. அதுக்கு தேவையான ரெக்குயர்மெண்ட்ஸ் ஜென்ரலா இருக்கும். ஃபார்ம் A2 இருக்கும், TCACB ப்ரொசீஜரல். அங்க நம்ம உள்ள போனோம்னா அந்த ஸ்பெசிபிக் ரெமிட்டன்சஸ் we should certainly carry out test check of those transactions. அப்புறம் கன்கரண்ட் ஆடிட்ல how they are reviewing those things, that அந்த ப்ரொசீஜர்ஸ் நம்ம பார்த்துக்கணும். In case of இப்போ what we seen is all resident related transfers. Non-resident who is living abroad, they wanted to remit fund from India to, they want to take out. There is a $1 million scheme wherein in a financial year from 1st April to 31st March, they can take back 1 million from India, from their NRO accounts or from any other sale proceeds. This is the general limit they have it. Apart from property transaction, ஒவ்வொரு ரெகுலேஷன்லயும் ஒரு லிமிட் இருக்கு. இப்போ ஒரு ப்ராப்பர்ட்டி அவங்க இந்தியாவில் வாங்குறதுக்காக இப்போ $1 million உள்ள கொண்டு வந்தாங்கன்னா அந்த $1 million they can take it back when they are selling the asset. That will not come in this 1 million limit. அது என்ன வந்திருக்கும் அந்த அமௌண்ட் கொண்டு போய்க்கலாம். அதுல கேபிட்டல் கெயின்ஸ் இருந்துச்சுன்னா then that they have to bring it under this 1 million scheme. 1 million is automatic route. Beyond that you have to go for RBI approval. அது ரொம்ப கேள்வி கேட்பாங்க எதுக்கு என்னங்கிறதெல்லாம் இருக்கும். அது வந்து அப்ரூவல் போன தான். ancestral property வித்தாலும் you have to take it under 1 million only. இங்க வந்து 1 million ஸ்கீம்குள்ள வராம கொண்டு போகணும்னா ஃபாரின்ல இருந்து வந்த பணத்தை திருப்பி கொண்டு போறதா இருந்தா, நீங்க வாங்கும்போது ஒரு $1 lakh வாங்கியிருக்கலாம். இப்போ அது $10 lakh வித்தீங்கன்னா ஓகே 1 million தான், பிரச்சனை இல்லை. $20 lakh வித்தீங்கன்னா அந்த $1 lakh you are freely taking it off. மிச்சம் இருக்கிற $19 lakh $10 lakh தான் எடுத்துட்டு போக முடியும். 1 million மிச்சம் 9 lakh வந்து you have to retain, wait for next year. Otherwise you have to go for approval of RBI for doing that out. So in the non-resident NRO to NRE transfer is also same way. 1 million the maximum limit which you can do of. Then comes the general FDI and ODI matters. So this is more for individual transaction where you will get an opportunity to review those things, and அதுக்கு ஸ்பெசிஃபிக்கா அங்க கமெண்ட் பண்றதுக்கு எங்க பண்ணுவோம் அப்படின்னா LFARல NRE NRO அக்கௌண்ட்ஸ் டிரான்சாக்ஷன் இருக்கு. செகண்ட் பாயிண்ட்ல டெபாசிட் அக்கௌண்ட், if there is breach there, so you will report it under those LFA areas. NRE NRO அக்கௌண்ட் டிரான்சாக்ஷன் ரிலேட்டட் ஏதாவது இருந்தால். அப்புறம் TCS ரிலேட்டட் நான் கம்ப்ளைண்ட்ஸ் இருந்துச்சுன்னா where you will have the tax audit area where you will be commenting that thing. Getting into the last part of my presentation, this is more into general FDI and ODI compliance matters, which to some extent it will be applicable for you during the branch audit. Not so much required because it's all the compliance requirements are more on the individual or the client company side. Bank வந்து just only verifying authority and updating. In case of compliance FDI, foreign investments in India. So when the money comes, obviously bank responsibility is giving an FIRC, KYC foreign land வந்தா அவங்க sign பண்ணி கொடுத்துருவாங்க. Now the individual has to allot the shares, individual company. When the money comes in, within 60 days they have to allot the share. They have to file form FCGPR in the firm's portal. The thing is, all these forms will go through the AD bank to RBI. So first check is by the AD bank. இங்க வந்து என்னன்னா, not all the branches deal with FCGPR checking and all those things. It's every bank have their designated branch. Most of them have it in Bombay. The Tamil Nadu related banks like Indian Bank, in the Karur Vysya Bank, இவங்கெல்லாம் வந்து சென்னையில ஃபாரக்ஸ் செல் இருக்கு. They only do that, verify that off. FCGPR ஆகட்டும், any transaction online reportingனா அவங்க பார்த்து வெரிஃபை பண்ணதுக்கு அப்புறம் it will go to RBI for next level approval. So this FCGPR form will be verified by the Forex designated branch, then onward transmitted to RBI. So wherever there is a FDI, then there is only one form, FCGPR will be reported. That's a one-time compliance when the foreign investment comes in. In case of wherever FDI, there is a regular annual compliance is FLA, Foreign Liabilities and Assets Statement, which has to be filed by July 15th. This doesn't pass through the banks. This directly goes to the Statistics Department of RBI. So we will not have any way of checking the audit time. We will not have access to that. Whenever there is a transfer of shares from one resident to non-resident or non-resident to resident, resident to resident no way reported, non-resident to non-resident not reported. Only if it is resident to non-resident or non-resident to resident transfers, it has to be reported in the form called FCTRS. Again, this form passes through the AD bank for RBI approval. So RBI, again, the AD banks, the Forex designated cell will verify that out. Conversion of debt to equity, actually, even before conversion, more when you are having a ECB, you are taking it up. Every transaction, trade credit or ECB, it all goes through the AD bank. ECB, they will be submitting form ECB for obtaining the LRN. First, AD bank does the complete check of whether it is complying with the ECB guideline regulation. Then they will forward it. Today, ECB is only hard copy driven. There is no forms, means in the sense online it is not there. Only FDI matters today brought under online. ODI and ECB matters are still hard copy driven. All the hard copies are submitted to the branch verifies and then forward it to RBI for approval. Majority of the branches, they always scan and send it to their respective Forex cell. There they switch it and they do that off. Branch level, it was more reduced, except maybe in the city major district central branch where the treasury is there, they may be checking it off. Otherwise, it's all more centralized to Forex cell. So ECB, there will be a requirement of fresh agreement. Once it comes, they have to file and take LRN. And every month they will be filing form ECB2. It's a monthly return they have to file. The 7th of every month they have to file for the previous month ECB related transaction. So if there is a ECB transactions taken, if there is a ECB availed customer is there, whether they have filed all these forms on time. And all this has to be updated in the RBI portal by the branch. They will file a hard copy here. It has been received, verified. These people will report in the RBI profile. An RBI online profile of this particular customer, it will be updated there. That job of bank to do that off. So that check we have to do that off for ECB. In case of conversion of a debt into equity, okay, share allotment, they have to file FCGPR. For ECB closure, they have to again file the form ECB2 for that month. That loan is closed by way of conversion. These two forms at that particular time, they have to file it. One will be in a hard copy, one will be in the system. FCGPR will go through the system route. Form ECB2 will come in the hard copy route to close it off. Then same way ESOP allotment, issuance, you have to file that forms. ADR, GDRs, you have, whenever you are issuing it off, that will be there, are followed with quarterly returns are there. So long as you have the ADR, GDRs open, it has to be filed every quarter. ODA means the same way in case of I've reported only for the company, same way if it's a LLP, whenever the capital infusion comes, again you have to report that thing. And again, same way, whichever industry is permitted for company, same is permitted for the LLP also. There it is, when the money comes in, you will report. There's no question of share allotment and all. So any inward capital contribution comes in, you will report. Whenever the repatriation of when the disinvestment happens, you will be reporting that. Getting into ODI compliance, ODI there is generally only one form ODI, part 1, 2, 3. Part 1 is whenever you are making an investment, they will submit a hard copy where chartered accountant certificate also will be there if it's a non-individual transactions. Part 2 is your annual performance report. Every year the company has to give. It's nothing but foreign companies audited accounts. They will submit to RBI through AD Bank in the form part ODI part 2. It's called annual APR. They generally told us. Part 3 is disinvestment. When they are selling the stake in the foreign company and they're bringing back the money, or when there is a write-off of part of the shares, whatever things, so disinvestment will come in the part 3. So only one form, which is divided into 3 parts. So respective instances of compliance, they will be filing it off. It all, as on date, it's all in the hard copy form only. Comes through the branch verifies it, and online reporting, they do it. Hard copies doesn't go to RBI. It's all at the branch level. They retain it. They update in the system for these things. Once they update in the system, RBI allots the UAN number for our ODI Part 1 transactions. Same way, all those reporting of overseas investment, respective forms, you'll be filing it up. So this is, in short, my presentation for this thing. So any specific questions on these areas? It's open to everybody. Share stop பண்ணிடலாம்ல bro? Yes. No, commission paid to non-foreign parties. See, it's all முதல்ல ஒரு circular இருந்துச்சு அந்த இதுல it's very clear. No TDS. If the see, it's section 9, we have to see the income earned, accrued, received, where it is. If the earning of income, say for example, if that guy is coming to India and coordinating for various activity, then there's a part of the commission accrues in India. If he is doing purely service only in that place, no way his services are connected in India. Then it is accrued outside India and received outside India. Then it's completely, you can claim that exemption. There are cases which we come across, எல்லாம் அங்க பண்ணிருப்பாங்க, யாராவது இந்தியன் சிட்டிசனா இருக்கும், கமிஷன் இந்தியால கொடுக்க சொல்லுவாங்க. Then received in India, then it is subject to TDS because then it becomes taxable. You have to ensure that it's earned, accrued, received outside India, and he doesn't have a PE in India. PE, no PE declaration, you test check it out. PE, then you have to have a different connotation of that. That is one thing. அது அந்த 1969 சர்க்குலர் கவர்மெண்ட் வித்ட்ரா பண்ணதுக்கு அப்புறம் நிறைய கன்ஃபியூஷன் இருக்கு. எக்ஸ்போர்ட் கமிஷனா இருந்தா கிளியர். Export commission and the service, pure rendering of services completely outside India. The export commission, some places where in the ரொம்ப டைசியா இருக்கிறதுல என்னன்னா export இருக்கும் and the agent இருப்பாங்க. Agent takes responsibility of checking the quality and all those things. இப்போ அவர் இந்தியால வந்து அந்த ஒரு 4 சர்வீஸ் இருக்குன்னா அதை ஒண்ணு வந்து இந்தியால வந்து பண்றான்னு வச்சுக்கோங்க. Then it's partly accrued in India. Then mandatory it will call for it. So நீங்க export commission நீங்க certify பண்ற முன்னாடி you should ask for what are all the exact scope of service, any service is rendered in India, whether they have any business connection in India or permanent establishment connections. அது இல்லைன்னா then purely it's clear exempt. Now it is becoming even more controversial. இப்போ இந்த கமிஷன் வந்து இது ஒரு 2-3 வருஷத்துக்கு முன்னாடி ரொம்ப இருந்துச்சு. இப்போ ராயல்டி வந்துருச்சு based on the Supreme Court judgment. அது பெரிய சர்க்கிள் எல்லாம் நிறைய செமினார் சொல்லிட்டு இருக்கு. See, the moment non-resident அப்படிங்கிற ஒரு வார்த்தை உள்ள வந்தாச்சுன்னா என்ன வந்தாலும் சரி, non-resident வந்தாச்சுன்னா they are not allowed to talk on agricultural land. Agricultural land அவங்க வந்து இன்ஹெரிட்டன்ஸ்ல மட்டும்தான் கொண்டு வர முடியும். They can't even get it in family arrangement settlements. Family arrangement settlement it is amounting to purchase. Inheritance is the only way they can get agricultural land. Inheritance na பெரியவங்க இறந்ததுக்கு அப்புறம் தான். அவங்க இருக்கும்போதே gift கொடுத்த settlement is amounting to gift. That is also not permitted. Non-resident இருக்கும்போது அக்ரி லேண்டுங்கிற பார்ட்டே மறந்துடணும். அக்ரிங்கிற வார்த்தையே வரக்கூடாது. அது வந்து சென்னை இட்ஸ் an offense. RBI காம்பவுண்டிங் போன எல்லா இடங்கள்லயும் RBI said please dispose the land. நீங்க ரெசிடென்டா இருக்கணும். ஃபேமிலி மெம்பர் டைரக்டா இன்டைரக்டாவும் வாங்கக்கூடாது. அதுக்கு மேல ரூல் சொல்றது எதர் டைரக்ட்லி ஆர் இன்டைரக்ட்லி பண்ண முடியாது. அக்ரிலேண்ட் வந்து ஆப்வியஸ்லி நிறைய பேரோட எல்லா எம்ப்ளாயிஸ் வெளியே அங்க ஒர்க் பண்ணிட்டு இருப்பாங்க. அப்புறம் மணி அனுப்பி இங்க வாங்குறது இருக்கும். அவங்க பேர்ல டீல் பண்ண முடியாது. there's no way out. இதெல்லாம் சில இடங்கள்ல வந்து சில டிரான்சாக்ஷன்ஸ் எல்லாம் தெரியாம போய் சப் ரெஜிஸ்ட்ரார் ஆபீஸ்ல கொஸ்டின் கேட்டு நின்று போன டிரான்சாக்ஷன்ஸ் எல்லாம் இருக்கு. ஆனா எனக்கெல்லாம் வாங்கியிருக்காங்க கான்ட்ராவென்ஷன் தான், பின்னாடி யாராவது ஒருத்தர் சேலஞ்ச் பண்ணாங்கன்னா பெனல்ட்டி வரும். சீரியஸ் அஃபென்ஸ் RBI doesn't permit. அக்ரிகல்ச்சர் லேண்ட் பீயிங் எ பொலிட்டிக்கல் சப்ஜெக்ட் ஆல்சோ ஃபாரின்ல இருக்கிறவங்க யாரும் கண்ட்ரோல் பண்ணக்கூடாதுங்கிறதுல they are very particular about it. They don't do it. If you are in a company farm, if you are into particular agricultural specific business, அந்த பிசினஸ் பர்பஸ்க்கு மட்டும் நீங்க வாங்கிக்கலாம். நீங்க ஏதாவது ஒரு புது புது ரிசர்ச் இது பண்றது அது இருக்குன்னா அது வாங்கிக்கலாம். அதுவும் அது லிமிட்டட் தான். நீங்க சும்மா அதுக்காக 100 ஏக்கரா வாங்கி போட்டு பண்ணோம்னா அப்படி நாட் அலௌட். ஸ்பெசிபிக் பர்பஸ் யூ கேன். அவ்வளவுதான். எனி ஆன்லைன் கொஸ்டின்ஸ்? இல்ல பார்த்துருக்கோம்.
Technical fee paid to non-residents, current sector industrial policy, and 10% fee. Industrial policy,
அந்த நத்திங் ஸ்பெசிஃபிக்கா ஒன்றும் இல்லை. இப்பெல்லாம் ஒன்றும் ஸ்பெசிஃபிக் இது கிடையாது. டெக்னிக்கல் ஃபீ யூ கேன். டெக்னிக்கல் ஃபீ மட்டும் டெஃபினிஷன் பார்த்துக்கணும். வாட் இஸ் டெக்னிக்கல் பார்த்துக்கிட்டிங்கன்னா கரெக்டாக இருக்கும்.
section about
ஐ திங்க் அந்த நீங்க டாக்ஸ்மேன் புக்னா அந்த மாஸ்டர் கைட்னு ஒன்று இருக்கும் பாருங்க, அதில் போனீங்கன்னா அதுக்கு டெஃபினிஷன் அது கிளியரா இருக்கும். Branch audit பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் will have a limited scope only in the FEMA aspect of it. Individual transactions, the trade transactions, nothing additional will come in that. ஆமா, அது நீங்க தான் பேக்கிங் கிரெடிட் நீங்க டைம் பீரியட் பார்த்துக்கணும், whether it is 360 days or thing, அது பார்த்துக்கணும். அப்போ whether by any chance how they close the account, அவங்க பாட்டுக்கு இந்தியன் ருபீஸ் ஃபாரின் ப்ரொசீட்ஸ் வராம நீங்க இந்தியன் ருபீஸ் வச்சு க்ளோஸ் பண்ணீங்கன்னா தென் தேர் இஸ் நோ சப்வென்ஷன். ஸோ அது ப்ரொசீட்ஸ் எப்படி க்ளோஸ் ஆச்சுங்கிற அந்த டெஸ்ட் செக் பண்ண வேண்டி வரும். ஜென்ரலா எக்ஸ்போர்ட் ப்ரொசீட்ஸ்லாம் மெஜாரிட்டி க்ளோஸ் ஆயிருக்கும். பட் சம்டைம்ஸ் எக்ஸப்ஷனலா வேற ஏதாவது ரீசனுக்காக வராம போயிருக்கலாம். அந்த எக்ஸ்போர்ட் ஆர்டர் ஆர்டரே கேன்சல் ஆயிருக்கலாம். தட் ஹேப்பன்ஸ். அப்ப என்ன பண்ணுவாங்க, அவங்க அவைல் பண்ணிருப்பாங்க, இங்க ருபி வச்சு க்ளோஸ் பண்ணுவாங்க. தென் அகைன் தே வில் நாட் கெட் எனி கன்செஷன் திங். தே வில் பி ஃபிளாட் ரேட் திங் இருக்கும். அப்ப அதெல்லாம் அங்க மட்டும் நம்ம செக் பண்ணிக்கணும் கரெக்டா. I think there is no other questions. If there is any question from members participating in the online, you can chat it. You can put it in the chat box. Okay, there's nothing, then we can formally wind up. Okay, right. Thank you. Thanks to the Tirupur branch for giving me an opportunity. Thank you.